Coming up on Mountain News this morning, folks across the Commonwealth remembered and reflected on the 9/11 attacks, even those who weren't alive at the time. Plus, Francine made landfall in Louisiana yesterday. It weakened to a tropical storm, but flash flooding warnings are still in effect.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News This Morning.
Good morning, I'm Madison Carmouche. We're coming up on 6 o'clock this Thursday morning, and Hurricane Francine made landfall like we said earlier, and it seems like we're going to be getting some of those effects in just a little bit of ways. Can we send it over to meteorologist Tim Drawbridge for an update?
And Francine continues to wreak havoc, Alabama, Mississippi, Madison. We're going to see the fringe effects here. What that basically means, cloud cover issues like we have right now. And then we end up bumping our rain chances, but the heaviest, more significant rain is central and western Kentucky the next couple of days. 54, mostly cloudy outside our door. We'll get a little sunshine as we head through the day, especially if you're watching from Ashland and Moorhead, back toward Powell and Stanton counties, over toward Prestonsburg, heading through the morning into the afternoon. A mostly cloudy sky for the rest of us. We're at 60 right now at Harlan and London, and that blanket of cloud cover has allowed our temps to stay on the milder side of things. Seasonably mild, and you can see that cloud cover extends across the state line into Tennessee. But as we head through today, this moisture inches northbound very slowly, and we'll start to see Lafayette, Jackson afternoon into this evening. In the meantime, faded sunshine here in Hazard today with a high of 81. The bus stop forecast coming up in moments. Madison?
All right, Tim, thank you. 23 years after the attacks of September 11, 2001, memorials and events popped up all throughout the region. WYMT's Buddy Forbes stopped by an event in Pike County yesterday.
9/11 shaped how we think about our own personal safety and the safety of our citizens.
With this particular iteration of the 9/11 Memorial, with the 23rd anniversary, we're going to focus more on what happened rather than why it happened.
Big Sandy Community and Technical College hosted a Patriots Day Memorial Wednesday, inviting students to reflect on the events of September 11, 2001.
And we realize that we have students that may not have been alive during the time of the 9/11 attacks.
Associate Professor Randall Hackney joined the military in 2002. Inspired to serve after the first anniversary of the September 11th attacks.
9/11 reminds me that it's important to be a part of something bigger than yourself. The United States of America is bigger than all of us.
We know that was a horrific day.
He says keeping the impacts of that day alive in the minds of today's students is the best way to honor the losses the nation suffered.
The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Why do we have the increased security? Why do police forces matter? Why do emergency medical forces matter? A lot of these things were born out of incidents such as 9/11. So to remind ourselves of where we've been will help us see where we're going.
Discussing remembrance, service, and lessons learned, Hackney says the event is a way to spread the stories of sacrifice and how the nation stood together.
9/11 reminds me of that, so I can pay it forward for the people who sacrificed to give me what I have. I want to earn it for them.
Hoping to promote patriotism and promise. In Pike County, Buddy Forbes, WYMT Mountain News.
Hackney is a sergeant first class who has served in the military for 22 years with 6 years of active duty, a career in the military that began as a response to the 9/11 attacks. Another ceremony honoring the victims of 9/11 was hosted in Franklin County. Members of the Frankfort Fire and EMS talked about the incident that happened 23 years ago. Chris Wood of the fire department was just in elementary school when 9/11 occurred. Wood says firefighters on that day serve as a role model to the profession.
It's just something that we try to live up to day in and day out in our profession, just giving back to the community as best we can.
Less than an hour after that event at 7 o'clock last night, Lexington firefighters hosted their 9/11 memorial stair climb at Kroger Field. Yesterday, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell had a statement on social media about remembering 9/11. It says 23 years ago today, terrorists ended 2,977 innocent lives in an act of staggering cruelty. From the rubble, our nation rose to rebuild, to care for the grieving, to pay tribute to the heroes who ran toward danger, and to bring murderers to justice. We will never forget. Officials with Buckhorn School hosted a ribbon cutting yesterday in Perry County. The ribbon cutting was to celebrate something new in addition to students being back in the building for the first time since the July 2022 flood. There is now a new preschool program at Buckhorn.
This area has never had a preschool before and didn't have early childhood education opportunities for the children living here. So it was really important that we looked for ways to increase that kindergarten readiness for the children living in the community.
Buckhorn School says officials say final renovations are still being completed.
Almost 6:05 on a Thursday morning. Better start to the day. I think Madison would agree. It's warmer. The temperatures are basically between 55 and 65. And the reason for that, one, the flow in terms of the air. Two, the cloud cover. That cloud cover acting like a blanket, but we do have breaks in the clouds, and this is where we're going to see the sunshine north of the Mountain Parkway up towards 64 and the Ohio River into West Virginia as we head through today. Not going to discount maybe a little sunshine as you make your way across the Cumberland Valley, but this is the area we'll track for a shower threat late this afternoon down toward Middlesboro and Jacksboro. Outside our door, we're now down to 54 as we head through today. Some faded sunshine and a high today in Hazard up to 81. More about the ARH First Alert 7-day forecast and the latest on Francine in moments. Madison?
Francine, thanks, Tim. Francine weakened to a tropical storm overnight, hours after it made landfall in Louisiana yesterday. Flash flood warnings are still in effect in parts of the state, with hundreds of thousands of residents without power. This morning, the storm is also battering parts of Mississippi with 70-mile-per-hour winds. CBS's Jason Allen has more from New Orleans.
A turbulent view from a shrimp boat as Francine slammed into Louisiana as a Category 2 storm yesterday, packing a deadly storm surge and winds whipping at nearly 100 miles per hour. In hard-hit Terrebonne Parish, the powerful storm brought down power lines, snapped trees, and tore through this thrift store.
At least nobody got hurt. My family's all intact. That's really all I care about. You know, this is the worst happens to me, I'm good.
Power outages left more than 350,000 Louisiana residents in the dark as they hunkered down from Francine overnight. Partial 911 outages were also reported in areas impacted by the storm, though wireless companies say they're resolving the issue.
When it's daylight, we better get out and see what's going on and what needs to be repaired and get working on it.
With streets in parts of New Orleans now flooded, the mayor says the city is prepared.
We're just continuing to be, I would say, that model for disaster preparedness and really for recovery.
Winds and storm surge from a now weakened Francine are expected to also pound parts of Mississippi and Alabama over the next few hours, with the potential for deadly tornadoes and flash flooding. Jason Allen, CBS News, New Orleans.
According to the National Weather Service, Francine is expected to continue to weaken over the next 24 hours to a tropical cyclone by Friday as it moves across the south. For the first time, the CDC is recommending doctors talk to women about pain management for intrauterine devices, or IUDs. For years, women have described painful experiences during the insertion and removal of the birth control device. The CDC now recommends doctors tell their patients that the local anesthetic lidocaine could be useful in reducing the patient's pain. On CBS Mornings, Dr. Celine Gounder also talked about a new device that could help make the procedure more bearable.
This is the old device, what's called a tenaculum. So it has these little hooks, sharp hooks on the end. This was used during the Civil War to remove bullets and to pull tissue during an amputation. The new device is already in use at Columbia University, Indiana University, and then a series of clinics, women's health clinics called TIA, are partnering with the company that makes this to train their providers.
IUDs are the most effective contraceptives available for women and are more than 99% effective at preventing pregnancy. Women with asthma are more likely to experience miscarriages and more likely to need fertility treatment to get pregnant. A study by the European Respiratory Society found women with asthma had a 1.3% higher chance of miscarriage. But the reason for the connection isn't clear. Doctors say that if the asthma is treated with medication, the higher risk is eliminated. Some Republicans in Washington are trying to pass a new law that would require proof of citizenship to vote. If passed, it would take effect immediately and apply to the upcoming election, but it's controversial and may throw the government funding fight or even the election itself into chaos. WYMT's Washington correspondent Stetson Miller tells us more about the bill.
Senate Republicans say the country needs this voter ID bill to stop non-citizens from voting, but opponents say it's unnecessary because it rarely happens and is already illegal. It's an issue that these lawmakers say their constituents are worried about: the integrity of federal elections.
They don't want, illegals to vote. They don't want non-citizens to vote. They want to make sure there's no cheating.
That's why they're pushing to pass the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility, or SAVE Act. It would require proof of U.S. citizenship and identity in person for voter registration in federal elections. It would also require states to remove non-citizens from existing voter rolls.
Our elections, especially in battleground states, can hinge on a few thousand votes. Protecting the integrity of our system by requiring proof of citizenship isn't controversial. It's actually common sense.
Democrats oppose the bill, saying it's unnecessary.
It's important to make clear that the Constitution already requires citizenship in order to be able to participate in our elections. That's federal law.
Former President Donald Trump has said that the SAVE Act should be attached to the government funding bill that Congress is trying to work out now, and posted on Truth Social that Republicans shouldn't pass the bill without it. Democrats have vowed to vote against any plan with the SAVE Act attached, meaning it would be dead on arrival in the Senate, where they hold a majority, risking a shutdown. But this group of Senate Republicans says none of them want that.
There's nobody up here that wants to shut down the government. I don't know one person, I don't know a Republican in the country that wants to shut down the government.
In Washington, I'm Stetson Miller.
Last year's Supreme Court decision to end affirmative action in college admissions is affecting admissions. The number of black students enrolled at Harvard University has dipped since the High Court's decision. According to data the institution released today, the number of first-year black students enrolled this fall declined to 14% from 18% last year. Enrollment for Asian American students remained the same as last year at 37%. Thanks for joining us on Mountain News this morning. More news is on the way. Coming up, we'll join WYMT's Lucy Bryson live in Laurel County with the latest on the manhunt for Joseph Couch.